what does it really cost to play football the way the game was never meant to be played? 8 years. That's how long Vontaze Burfict terrorized the NFL. A career built on pure aggression, on hits that made grown men question their profession, on a style of play so violent, so uncompromising, that the league itself had no choice but to step in. This wasn't just another linebacker with an edge. This was something darker, something the NFL had never quite seen before, and something they knew they couldn't control. He's injured players. He has a long history of personal fouls, one analyst said after yet another brutal hit. You could end that young man's career. The fines kept coming, the suspensions mounted, the controversy never stopped. And through it all, one question remained unanswered. Was Vontaze Burfict a product of the game he loved, or was the game itself afraid of what it had created? By the time the league handed down its final ruling in 2019, the answer didn't matter anymore. Burfict's career was over, but his legacy as the most violent player in modern NFL history was just beginning.
Let's get right into it. So, you said some things about CT. So let's talk about that. And we got a lot of topics. We got plenty of time, but a lot of people talk about that wild card game with Cincinnati Bengals. You remember the game where you got hit and everybody's seen that clip. It's uncomfortable to watch that clip. It's not easy for me to watch. I watched it earlier today.
Vontaze Burfict.
Yeah, we can't forget
but
that.
That's what I'm saying. Like you guys pick a point in the career that you guys think you could.
South Central Los Angeles, Compton. The kind of place where survival isn't taught, it's inherited. Vontaze Burfict was born into chaos. His father, a convicted cocaine dealer. His family, surrounded by gang violence and poverty that stretched across every block. The streets didn't offer choices. They offered lessons. And the first lesson was simple. Fear gets you killed. As a young boy, Burfict was shy, timid. He'd hide behind his mother's legs when strangers approached, terrified of the world around him. Friends and family described him as withdrawn, almost invisible in social settings. But something happened when he stepped onto a football field. Something changed. Something dangerous awakened inside him. People tell me you were a very shy, quiet, unassuming young man away from the field, an interviewer once asked him. And then the helmet and shoulder pads come on and it's like we flick a switch. Burfict smiled. Yeah, I am a shy guy off the field. But when I put the helmet and the pads on, I just have an aggression to hit somebody. That aggression wasn't born from nowhere. It was forged through trauma. At age 3, he accidentally set his house on fire, burned it to the ground. When asked who did it, young Vontaze responded, "The boogeyman." At 13, he survived a brutal car crash that sent him and his mother tumbling down a cliff. Their vehicle rolled violently before coming to rest. Burfict smashed the window with his bare hands and pulled his unconscious mother out of the wreckage. At 15, one of his closest friends was chased down by members of a rival gang and stabbed 13 times. He didn't survive. The incident left Burfict even more withdrawn, more isolated from the world around him. Violence wasn't something Vontaze Burfict learned on a practice field. It was something he lived every single day. And football became his outlet, the one place where the rage inside him wasn't just acceptable, it was celebrated. On the field, being feared wasn't a problem. It was an advantage. And Burfict quickly learned that to survive in his world, you needed to be the most dangerous person in the room.
Diagnosed with CTE from a hit.
People are saying that.
No, I know. So I'm saying. So people were saying I have CTE, but this is the same thing that killing players. We have players that recently just died from this issue. You know what I'm saying? That's what I just told you before we started.
Sure.
The same thing I walked off the field for that I didn't want to get CTE. It's the same thing they put on me to say I got CTE to crazy. You see what I'm saying?
So you're saying so the criticism.
You feel me?
The criticism you're saying is that people
come with it.
Centennial High School, Compton, California. By a senior year, Burfict was ranked the #2 linebacker in the nation. Scouts watched his tape in disbelief. The aggression, the instinct, the absolute refusal to let anyone run through him. He played with a violence that seemed almost personal, as if every tackle was settling a score. But there was a problem. Parents started complaining. Opposing coaches grew concerned. His own mother was approached on the sidelines by worried parents, asked to tell her son to ease up, to stop hitting so hard. She refused. Her son had worked too hard to get where he was. If other kids couldn't handle it, that wasn't her problem. If you think it's bad now, go watch his highlight tape from high school, one analyst later said. It's like WWE stuff he was doing to kids. This is who he is. It's always been. It's never going to change. That's in his personality. That's in his blood. That's in his makeup. That's who he is. Arizona State offered him a scholarship, and for one season, everything clicked. Burfict dominated, a perfect fusion of raw power and football intelligence. He was named Pac-10 Defensive Freshman of the Year, finishing the season as one of the most promising young linebackers in college football. Coaches praised his instincts, teammates feared playing against him in practice, opponents dreaded seeing his number on the field. But the violence followed him. Over his 3 years at Arizona State, Burfict amassed 22 personal fouls in just 37 games. Ejections, suspensions, threats from coaches to bench him permanently if he didn't change. During one particularly intense practice, Burfict got into a heated argument with receiver Kevin Ozier after Ozier allegedly hit him during a drill. The confrontation escalated. Ozier pushed him. Burfict responded with a punch to the temple that echoed across the practice facility. Coaches had to pull them apart. It was another incident added to a growing list of concerns about his temperament and ability to control himself.
And I walked off the field because I didn't want CTE, and you go back to the moment where you think I got hit and may have CTE. You see what I'm saying?
I'm asking you a question for you to give your position. It's very simple. Because when I joined the military, I had
it's not the military, this football.
I'm giving you my situation. If you want to know you said you want to learn about me as well, so I'll tell you a little bit here. When I joined the military, there was a risk. And the risk was...
This ain't the military, though, sir. This is a football. This is a...
Military, you get killed. In football, you could get hurt, and people get killed due to CT.
His rookie year was quiet, focused, controlled. Burfict finished the season with solid numbers, and for a moment, it seemed like he had turned a corner. Maybe the concerns were overblown. Maybe he had matured. Maybe the NFL had gotten through to him in a way college coaches couldn't. But it didn't last. Week 3 of the 2013 season against the Green Bay Packers, everything changed. During a routine extra point attempt, Burfict got into a shoving match with Packers tight end Ryan Taylor. Cameras caught it, a subtle but deliberate shot below the belt. The league reviewed the footage and fined him $10,000. Later that same game, he delivered a brutal hit on receiver James Jones that drew immediate flags and another $21,000 fine. $31,000 in fines in one game. And it was just the beginning. Week 6 brought a violent face mask penalty against Bills running back Fred Jackson, another fine. Week 8, helmet-to-helmet contact on Jets receiver Stephen Hill, $21,000 more. Week 10, a late hit on Joe Flacco. Week 16, another late hit on a quarterback. Week 17, unnecessary roughness. By the end of the season, Vontaze Burfict led the league in 2 categories: tackles and penalties. Analysts called him explosive and talented, but also wildly out of control. He's a severe player with a great deal of violence in his game, one commentator said. However, he does play out of control a lot of the time.
God bless Demaryius Thomas players. That's Vincent Jackson. The list goes on. You just said a linebacker, my God, Junior.
Yeah.
Plenty of guys, but, no one wants to talk about it. The doctors get brushed off for it. So it was like, they scratch it. And then if you walk off and be like AB, then you got CT.
So AB, question. So if you go back,
it's like you damn if you do, damn if you not. It's like,
but if you go back and you were coming up, say you're 17 years old.
Man, I come up in Liberty
6, Carolina Panthers. Burfict returned from injury with a vengeance. He knocked receiver Kelvin Benjamin out of the game with a vicious hit in the second quarter, then delivered a late shot on Cam Newton in the first quarter that drew immediate penalties. But what happened next crossed a line that even his defenders couldn't justify. After tackling Newton near the goal line on a quarterback scramble, Burfict grabbed the quarterback's ankles and twisted them violently. Cameras caught the entire sequence. Newton grimaced in pain as Burfict applied pressure to his joints with clear intent to injure. Later that same game, he did it again. This time to tight end Greg Olsen after a touchdown catch. Targeting an ankle Olsen had previously injured earlier in the season. Olsen grabbed at his leg immediately, his face twisted in agony. Instances like that are so clearly premeditated, former NFL offensive lineman Ross Tucker said on national television. Punishment needs to go beyond a fine. I think guys like that don't learn from that stuff. He's been fined 100 times for headhunting. It's just what he is. Greg Olsen was livid in his post-game interview. At some point, if the NFL wants to say they care about guys' safety, they gotta start putting guys out for weeks. Because, me and Cam are lucky we weren't out for weeks. The league fined him $12,500 for the play. But Burfict didn't care. He kept playing the same way. He refused to change his approach, convinced that the rules were changing faster than he could adapt, and that the league was targeting him specifically because of his reputation.
There are rivalries in the NFL, historic battles between franchises that span decades. But what existed between Vontaze Burfict and the Pittsburgh Steelers wasn't a rivalry, it was personal. It was violent. It was war. I didn't hit people after the play all the time, Burfict later admitted in an interview. Just the Steelers. Fuck the Steelers. That animosity defined some of the most brutal moments of his career. In one game, he tackled running back Le'Veon Bell near the sideline during what seemed like a routine play. Bell's leg got trapped underneath Burfict's body as they went to the ground. His knee tore. Ligaments shredded. His season ended on that play. Steelers players immediately accused Burfict of targeting Bell's knee intentionally. "I think that he definitely was diving low and going for my leg," Bell said afterward. The Bengals denied it. Burfict denied it. But the damage was done, both to Bell's career and to Burfict's already tarnished reputation. In another matchup, Burfict was fined nearly $70,000 in a single game after launching at quarterback Ben Roethlisberger's ankles and getting into a violent altercation with fullback Roosevelt Nix that resulted in multiple penalties and ejections. But the most controversial moment came during the 2015 Wild Card playoff game between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, a game that would go down as one of the ugliest in NFL postseason history. Late in the game, Antonio Brown went up for a pass over the middle of the field. Burfict launched himself like a guided missile.
Week 13, Bengals versus Steelers, another chapter in the bloodiest rivalry in football. A dump-off pass to Le'Veon Bell near midfield. Burfict pursued from his linebacker position, closing in for the tackle. And then it happened. Steelers rookie receiver Juju Smith-Schuster delivered a blindside block that flattened Burfict. The hit was devastating, clean by the rulebook but brutal in execution. Burfict crumpled to the ground, motionless. The crowd at Heinz Field erupted. Steelers players celebrated on the sideline. Smith-Schuster stood over Burfict's body and taunted him as flags flew through the air. "Karma," one Steelers player said afterward to reporters. "You do the wrong things, you get the wrong things happening." Analysts loved it. Finally, someone had delivered the same kind of punishment Burfict had been dishing out for years. He had better hope Vontaze Burfict doesn't get healthy, one ESPN analyst warned, because if he does, they will meet again, and this is not a dude whose bad side you want to get on. If Vontaze Burfict ever gets an opportunity to get his hands on this dude, I'm sending my condolences in advance. Burfict missed the rest of the game with a concussion, but he remembered. And when the two teams met again the following season, Burfict delivered a brutal hit on Antonio Brown that mirrored the 2015 wildcard incident. He pointed at Smith-Schuster afterward, signaling that he was next. This was personal, this was revenge, and the NFL was watching.
Oakland Raiders. After years in Cincinnati, Burfict signed with the Raiders, hoping for a fresh start under head coach John Gruden. It lasted 4 weeks. Week 4. Indianapolis Colts. A pass over the middle to tight end Jack Doyle. Burfict launched himself at the catch point. Helmet to helmet. Flags flew immediately, but the game didn't stop there. Officials huddled. They reviewed the play on the monitor, and then they made a decision that would end everything. Vontaze Burfict was ejected from the game. Days later, the NFL announced its ruling. Suspended for the rest of the season. No appeal, no second chance, no path back. After 8 years, nearly $4 million in fines, over 20 personal foul penalties, and countless suspensions that cost him millions more in lost salary, the NFL had finally had enough. Commissioner Roger Goodell had seen enough. The league's competition committee had seen enough. The Players Association couldn't defend him anymore. Vontaze Burfict would never play another down of professional football. Teams were warned not to sign him. The message was clear. His career was over.
In December 2020, Burfict was involved in an altercation with security guards at a Las Vegas shopping area. He was detained, placed in handcuffs, and charged with misdemeanor battery after a confrontation that witnesses said escalated quickly and became physical. His playing days were over, but the violence followed him. The aggression that made him one of the most feared players in NFL history couldn't simply be turned off when the helmet came off. "People tell me you were a very shy, quiet, unassuming young man away from the field," the interviewer had said years earlier during his prime. "Yeah, I am a shy guy off the field," Burfict responded. "My mom worked 3-4 jobs and made sure I had clothes on my back. I just see my mom grinding. I was like, man, I gotta make sure I make it." And then the helmet came on. And everything changed. From a shy boy in Compton to one of the most feared men in the NFL. A player who played with pure emotion but little discipline. To some, he was the league's villain, the poster child for everything wrong with football's violent culture. To others, he was the last remnant of a brutal era that the NFL was desperately trying to erase from its history. But by the time Vontaze Burfict stepped onto an NFL field in 2012, the league had already decided those days were over. The game was changing. Rules were being rewritten to protect players from the very hits that Burfict built his career on. Every brutal collision, every questionable tackle, every fine and suspension, they were all battles in a war he could never win.